In this setup, on the left we can see an IDE. I'm using VS Code. On the right hand side, we can see a developer's console where we are going to test most of the code for this lesson. Let's talk about values and the different types of it. Values are the building blocks of a program. We will learn about different types of values that can be used in JavaScript. We will learn about different types one by one. To start with, we'll start with number. On line number 2, you can see a value 21. On line number 3, you can see another value 23.02. When we look at these values, we get a feeling that these values are of different types because one has decimal places and other doesn't. But in JavaScript, there is no distinction between number types, whether they have a decimal place or not. Both are of type number. So how do we check the type of values? To do that, we use type of operator. Type of operator accepts a value and tells us the type of that value. So we will check the type of these two values. We can see both the values are of type number. In simple terms, any numeric value, integer or decimal, is considered to be a number type in JavaScript. Let's see what are some of the operations we can perform on number. To change these number values, we can use operations like addition, subtraction, or multiplication. To perform these operations, we use these symbols, also known as operators. Let's perform some operations on integer and decimal numbers. We can see these operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division performed on integer and decimal numbers. There are some special numbers like infinity or nan. Nan stands for not a number. You should think of nan to be a value that cannot be represented in numbers. Something like infinity minus infinity will return nan. What if we want to check the type of these special values? We will find out that both these values are of number type. Let's move on to the next data type, that is string. On line number 6, 7, and 8, we can see three text values. In JavaScript, these text values are of type string. String can be characters, words, or paragraphs, or visually any value that is enclosed in single quote, double quote, or backticks. Let's go ahead and check the type of these values. And we'll find out that all these values are of type string. We need to keep one thing in mind though. The start and end quotation mark of the string should be the same. This is a list of valid strings, and these are invalid because the start and end quotation mark is not the same. What happens when we type the invalid string in console? Starts with double quote but ends with single quote. It will throw an error, invalid or unexpected token. We can perform operations like joining two strings using the plus operator. Say we have two strings, hello and world. If we want to join them, we can use plus operator, and when we press enter, we'll get hello and world together in one string. What if we want to add a space in between? We can use multiple plus within space in middle, and we'll see that the output is hello space world. Let's move to the next type, that is Boolean. On line number 11 and 12, we can see two values, true and false. These are classified as Boolean type values. We use Boolean values to distinguish between two possible outcomes, like yes and no, or on and off. Boolean types have only two values, that is true and false. There is no exception. Let's go ahead and check the type of these values using type of operator. And we'll see both these values are of type Boolean. We can apply an operator known as not operator that converts true into false and false into true. This is also known as flip operator that flips the value from true to false and false to true. Let's move on to the next type, that is null and undefined. On line number 15 and 18, we can see two special values, undefined and null. These values are also known as empty values. These are used to show the absence of any meaningful data. There is no fundamental difference between undefined and null. You must be thinking, why two values to show one thing? There are some historical reason for this in JavaScript, but as a suggestion, you should treat them as interchangeable. Let's go ahead and check the type of undefined, and we'll see it is undefined. There is only one value of type undefined, and that is undefined itself. Let's check the type of null. It returns object. You must be wondering, what is this happening? Well, you're correct. This is just a bug in JavaScript that cannot be fixed because of some compatibility issues. We will use these two values where any operation doesn't produce a meaningful value. We will see those operations later on. Let's move on to the last type, that is an object. All the types we have seen till now, for example, number, string, boolean, null, or undefined, are called primitive types. These types can only contain one value. They can't contain a collection of values. On line number 22, we can see though that we have a collection of values. John is of type string and 32 is of type number. This is a non-primitive value type called an object. It can contain multiple values. An object contains a collection of key and value pair. In this example, keys are username and age, and the values are John and 32. The value can be any of the types that we have learned, like number, string, boolean, and even object. We will learn about objects in more details later on. Let's go ahead and check the type of object. And we'll see it is of object data type. All these values that we learned about are the building blocks of any JavaScript program. We need different kinds of values for different purposes. For example, if we want to calculate the total price, we would need a number. For displaying a message, we need string values. And for multiple values, we will need an object. In this way, we can communicate with the JavaScript program to create our desired outcome.